former President Donald Trump is preparing to turn himself into the authorities to face criminal charges later today. As you know, a grand jury indicted the former president over his alleged involvement in a hush money payment scheme paid to adult film star Stormy Daniels. That happened during his 2016 campaign. He is set to return to Florida right after that arraignment and deliver a speech at Mar-A-Lago this evening. Major Garrett is in West Palm Beach.
Oh, it sounded like we needed more cowbell.
There's
Did you
a lot
hear
of
that?
cowbell. There's somebody out there with a cowbell in New York City. But Major Garrett is in West Palm Beach, where the president is expected to return after the arraignment. Major, so let's talk about a couple of things here. I mean, it's still early, so I'm guessing there are not a lot of Trump supporters out there. But going forward, thinking big picture, how does this shake up the GOP primary, if at all?
So the biggest question for Republican primary voters is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis going to get into this race? He's certainly primed to get into this race. He's raised plenty of money. He's assembling through his super PAC a list of very prominent, well-known, some former Trump loyalists to work there. That's what you do if you're going to build a national campaign in waiting. Ron DeSantis has done that. He has super majorities in the Florida House and Senate, and they're passing legislation that is very conservative, exactly the kind of legislation that you would want to see passed and you sign if you're going to run nationally and try to appeal to caucus voters who are Republicans in Iowa, primary voters in New Hampshire, South Carolina, and across the country. So all of this is building toward what many Republicans anticipate will be a DeSantis challenge against former President Trump. He hasn't defended the president under the underlying accusations for this indictment, but he has said that the district attorney in Manhattan shouldn't bring this case in the first place. So he's tried to walk both sides of that line. The question for DeSantis is, what do you do? Do you talk about Trump, or do you focus on your legislative agenda and those victories you want for the state of Florida as he defines them, and that could be very applicable in a primary caucus conversation across the country? That seems to be where DeSantis is right now, not spending very much time or rhetoric on the former president's current legal problems.
Major, as you know, the former president has been using this indictment to fundraise. I think the Trump campaign said that once the indictment was announced, they raised like $4 million in like a couple of days or a day or something like that.
A lot of them were first-time donors and small donations.
Right. So now, you know, you've covered Donald Trump's legal sort of challenges over the years. You know that his lawyers have a tendency to try to like drag things out. Could we be looking at a trial at the height of election season? And, you know, what's the speculation as to how that would work out?
That's certainly a possibility. I wouldn't say at this point it's a probability. One of the first things the Trump lawyers will do, and they've already said this, is they will immediately make a motion to dismiss this case. They will probably argue if the indictment is as has been reported and speculated about, and we need to wait and see what the indictment actually is, that it is a novel approach to the law and that it should be dismissed. And if they can't get a dismissal, they'll probably seek other ways to delay the proceedings. Maybe seek a change of venue, get it outside of Manhattan, do other sorts of things. Throughout his entire history, when Donald Trump has been a litigant and he's on the defensive, he delays and seeks some sort of settlement. Well, there's not going to be any settlement of this. The Trump lawyers have also made that very clear. They're not going to plea this out. They're not going to settle this case. They want to win and win on their terms. How long that takes? Could that put us in next year, the calendar year, when there are caucuses in Iowa? And as I mentioned, primaries, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Super Tuesday, and the rest? That could. And of course, the other great variable behind all of this is, are there other indictments coming from the special counsel in Washington or the district attorney in Fulton County, Georgia? Those are real possibilities. And the Trump legal team is basically trying to decide where to place its resources and which legal cases to fight most aggressively as they come up. This is the first. It may not be the last.
So, as we've been reporting, Major, we expect that the former president will return to Mar-A-Lago tonight. He's going to have a speech. Back in 2016, Major, when you reported on our air, we started to see this groundswell of excitement at former President Trump's rallies. And I remember Major and others saying, look, this is kind of unique. Even though he's saying things oftentimes that are outrageous or perhaps not even true, the crowds are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I wonder, though, I looked at some of the crowds of people that were lining the streets yesterday as he drove to the airport. It didn't look big.
No.
I mean, it looked that there were some people out there. I saw a lot of flags.
And I think there's always kind of people out there, too.
There's that hardcore base, Major. But what did you see yesterday, and what do we expect today? And will that, in the same way that in 2016 gave you a reading of the tea leaves, mean anything going forward?
Two things yesterday I think are worth noting. One, the crowds were a little bit smaller, still there. And the deportment of the former president wasn't nearly as aggressive or stylistic as it typically is. And I really do believe that his attorneys have said to him, look, Mr. President, this is a serious matter, and you have to be serious from this point forward. I know they have remarks prepared for tonight, but my sense is those remarks are going to be rewritten based on what the indictment says, what the district attorney says, and his press availability with reporters later this afternoon. And it may be shorter than a campaign-style speech. I suspect it'll be much shorter. It may just be on the facts, his innocence, and carrying on behalf of those who do still support him. So I think the president's demeanor yesterday was worth noting, that it was not soft so much, but it was restrained. And I really do believe that is reflective of the advice his attorneys have given him. And those who support him here know this is going to be a long slog. They don't want to be here every hour of every day because this is going to be a long process. But we should never underestimate the resiliency of the Trump base within the Republican Party. It varies statistically, but it is still there. It is still strong. And until someone else challenges him and proves through polling data or election results that they can knock him off, he's the presumptive frontrunner.
All right, Major Garrett, thank you.